The swallowing part is where the gagging reflex comes in.
Is it
It
better?
tastes okay, but when you swallow it, that's when you want to throw up. The other guys did throw up. The other guys that were eating it, yeah.
And is it better to chew it all
We
up?
manned up and chewed
Or
it.
just chew it and swallow it in hunks?
I don't think it makes any difference. Once you get to the
I
swallow,
more just wanted to
what do you think?
taste it, actually. Like, they were really eating, like, ice cream scoops of the stuff. Like, I just had, like, a little bit on a fork, because I just wanted to actually taste it. And the taste was surprisingly not as bad as I thought, but then it's like you said, as soon as you try to swallow it, just, I don't know if it's some kind of psychological block or something happened.
Right. Yeah. That's why they call it cat food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we on? We're good?
We are rolling.
All right, cool. So did you guys like the movie?
Yeah, I like the movie.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
From what aspect?
Well, it's simple. It's from the aspect of setting out to make the film in the beginning to where it ends up. You have an idea in your head and what you want to convey, and the closer you get to that idea that you have in your head, I think the happier you are as a director. And I think it's a good representation of what I had in my head.
I like how it balances the kind of action roller coaster ride that you want in a commercial film with more depth on a slightly deeper level, and those kind of movies always interest me, and you can sort of take what you want from it.
Right. Because the reason I ask is demographically, because there's a 20-age difference here, 20-year age difference, and so we always compare that on the movies. It's like and I liked it. But, it was good, but then she thought it was awesome. So I didn't know if, when you guys went into it, is it made for a certain demographic age group, you think, or is it just across the board? Or I mean, did you have it in your
seniors. No. It's like it's like the way I think of it is when it started off, it was a genre film, like absolutely like a hardcore genre movie is what I wanted to make. I knew it was R-rated. I knew there'd be blood. I knew there'd be science fiction, hardware, designs, all the kind of stuff that I like in genre films. But the more it evolved, the more, and I could be wrong because it hasn't come out yet, but the more I began to feel like his character is quite compelling. And I thought that, the performance he was given mixed with the arc that the character has in the story was compelling enough that it was drawing. The thing that surprised me the most about the film was that it had much more of an emotional edge than I had anticipated.
That surprised me as well, actually, in the end.
And I think that may have... it may reach wider. Again, the film hasn't come out, so I have no idea. I'm speaking rubbish, maybe, but it may reach wider than just a genre, kind of a hardcore genre film.
Yeah.
Did you feel that your character was more driven by selfish acts of trying to become human again, or more just he knew that something was happening that was wrong and that the aliens were being mistreated completely? Which do you feel he drove him more?
I think it was more driven by his own needs as he continued. I think people will generally tend to default to that when everything sort of is being stripped away from you. But I think he ends up with so little left. It's like he tries to hang on to his world, but it goes. So the outside family goes, the whole outside life goes, then it's just your own mind, your own thoughts, your own hope for things, and maybe it could still be the way it was. And it keeps going until he's so forced to sort of really look at what he doesn't want to consider, which is the situation for the creatures and their perspective, a little bit more than he would have. I think he's just left with the bare essence of what it is to be sort of alive and kind of sentient on the planet by the end of the movie. And so he's definitely forced into something. He wouldn't voluntarily want to do any of that
no
stuff.
one would.
Yeah.
And Kathryn brought up a good point. We were talking earlier about the budget for this film is it's a little less than most of the big blockbusters, but it still looks greater than most of the films that came out this summer. I mean, did you have a technique of taking the little bit of money that you had and making it look as fabulous as it did? Because it just, even the poster is just, there's something drawing about it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, that's really awesome that you're reacting to it that way. People have been asking me this lately, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is. I mean, what I'm putting it down to is, I think for one thing, there's less visual effects shots. Like, this film has about 600 effect shots. And you may find in bigger films it's at least 1,200, if not 1,700 or 1,800. So that already is less than half right away. So you've already halved potentially a very large portion of your budget right there. And then the way that we approach the effects, you could get to a shot like in the movie that looks photoreal. It looks like you think it's a real alien, but it could take 2 or 3 times longer than we took if you incorporated into the design things that would need a lot of research and development, right? Like if it was some kind of crazy fur-covered animal or something you hadn't seen before, you'd have to do a lot of R&D to find out what that looks like. But I chose them to be insects, and we know what insects look like. You know what I mean? It's like choices like that, so you can get to the result you want to faster. That was one reason. And then shooting in South Africa is a bit cheaper. The other thing also is that every dollar we spent ended up on the screen, I think. There's not, I think in movies a lot of the time you have, there's kind of fluff around the edges, you know what I mean? Like a lot of money that doesn't wind up on the screen. And I think all of the dollars ended up on the screen here.
Right. You think it'll be a template where people will look at this and go, hey, this is how to make a movie? You know, we don't have to have all this, you know, cash holes to spray it down with?
I don't know.
Jeez, I don't know, man. I think he is a key thing in that. Like, you know, Neill's actual eye, like in having sort of seen his stuff from a younger age, like that would be one of my things. I'm not particularly surprised that he was able to do those action sequences on the money, etc. He's just always had that. It's just kind of like a design thing and a filmmaker thing.
But I don't know whether it'll affect. Yeah, I doubt it'll have any effect actually in Hollywood that way. I mean, it's just because the film does look like it has a cheaper style of directing. You know, it's like it looks like there's documentary parts to it and stuff. And I think if you want to make a big slick film, you're going to spend more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what the box office says, but I think it's going to do really well.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was good. I appreciate you guys' time today.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks
It
very
was
much.
really quick.
Thanks.
Did you actually see the cat food thing this morning, or how did
No,
you bring
well,
that up?
Roderick was
Soldier?
twittering about it. He
Oh,
was like putting all these
cool,
twit
okay.
pics up, and
I want to find a video of it because it was extremely.